Good morning, everyone. Thank you for that introduction. I see a lot of bright faces this morning. I hope you enjoyed Addis Ababa yesterday. How was the tour? It's a beautiful city, right? Okay, so before I introduce our panel, let me just say something very briefly. I'm a journalist from Kenya, and then I decided to move into communication consultancy. In Kenya, we call it Juakali. And then now we are on the verge of launching in January, inshallah, what will be hopefully the first, it's an ambitious venture. It's going to be the first TV station dedicated on matters pastoralists. So we're going to use that platform to tell our stories, to tell our history, to tell our culture, our identity, and everything. So this will be a conversation for another day. So for now, before I go to the topic of discussion this morning, let me bring our panel on stage. I hope they're all here. Let me start with Dr. Tamirat Bekele, a round of applause for him. The reason I'm starting with him is from Ethiopia, although he calls Nairobi his second home. Dr. Bekele is a climate scientist at ICPAC. So for those who don't know what ICPAC is, it's the Egged Climate Prediction and Application Center. He specializes in climate modeling, season forecasting, and climate risk analysis for the Greater Horn of Africa. His work supports government and humanitarian agencies with actionable early warning, information used to anticipate droughts, heat extremes, and rainfall variability. So as journalist, he's going to be a key source of information for us as far as early warning and early action is concerned. Oh, you're already here. He's a real Bekele. You know Bekele, the marathon guy. So Dr. Bernard Bett is our next panelist, all the way from Kenya. So Dr. Bett is a senior scientist from Animal Health, ILRI. It's a heavy panel of PhDs, so you're going to help me drive this conversation. It's going to be heavy, I know. So he's a senior animal health scientist at the International Livestock Research Institute, ILRI. He leads research on climate-sensitive livestock diseases, zoonotic risks, surveillance systems, and disease modeling. His work focuses on how climate variability influences disease emergence and developing early warning tools to protect pastoral and livestock-dependent communities in the Horn of Africa. He's widely recognized for his role in strengthening animal health systems and resilience. Next in line is Dr. Guyo Roba. He's not from Ethiopia. You know you have a lot of Guyos here as well. He's from Kenya. He's the head of ICPALD and a very passionate pastoralist. He serves in different boards. He's served in different organizations that touch on pastoralists. So Dr. Guyo is the head of the Dryland Development Unit within Eggad. He's a leading expert in pastoralism and dryland systems. He has extensive experience in rangeland management, pastoral mobility, cross-border livestock economies, and resilience programming. Dr. Guyo has been part of ILRI before, so I think you're going to catch up with Dr. Bett there. Last but not the least, a very passionate lady. We're always told ladies first, right? So I decided to save her for the last because I want to finish on a high. She's Fahima Mohammed, all the way from Djibouti. A round of applause for her, the only lady on the panel. She is going to give us the practical aspects of what we're going to discuss this morning. She's an agri-influencer. I didn't know it's a thing until today. But I've seen her footprints on social media, very active. You'll see her, the way she's dressed. She's a farmer, believe me. She is a serious farmer in Djibouti. She's now specializing in fodder, and she's a specialist in irrigation. So now that we have a full panel, I think I'm the only missing piece here. So let me go straight to our topic of discussion this morning. It's very straightforward. It's a topic that I'm also very passionate about, because I come from the pastoralist region in Kenya. The topic of discussion is livestock in the face or era of climate shocks in the Greater Horn of Africa. Livestock in the era of climate shocks in the Greater Horn of Africa. What a time to have this conversation, because this is a conversation we are having right after COP30 in Brazil. And I decided to look at some of the highlights from COP30, and I didn't like how the livestock issue was framed. Because somehow experts, the global experts, see livestock as a problem rather than a solution. There are actually other experts who are even asking African countries to sort of use plant-based protein other than animal-based protein. So if you're not a pastoralist and you feel like this is a debate that doesn't concern you, it concerns you, if especially you like beef. And in Kenya, we call it nyama choma. So this is something that is very relevant to you. So today, we are going to ask key questions here. How do we balance global climate concerns with local realities? What evidence do we need to position livestock as part of climate solutions? And how do we ensure pastoralist voices are heard at regional and global platforms? And finally, what practical actions must we take to protect livestock and strengthen resilience? So let me go straight to our panel discussion. I hope we have all the microphones there. I have two. I think we'll need one more. Sound check, 1, 2, thank you. So the discussion again, it's all about livestock in the face of climate change. So let me start with Dr. Bekele, because you're in your home ground. So Bekele, at ICPAG, you have projected growing climatic shocks in the Greater Horn of Africa. Can you just tell us what are we looking at in the next 10 years? Because as a journalist, I've seen firsthand what unpredictable weather patterns do to pastoralists. Sometimes we have floods. After floods, we have droughts, especially what we are facing right now. So how is the landscape like in the next 10 years?
Thank you, Yusuf. At ICPAC, our climate models are showing a very clear message. The Great Horn of Africa is entering into a period of more frequent, more intense, and more overlapping climatic shocks. We are seeing a steady warming, a steadily increasing warming trend. The temperature have been increasing by 0.2 to 2.3 degrees Celsius per decade. This may sound too small, but it is driving more heat waves, higher evapotranspiration, evaporations. It's also giving a stress on livestock, on the crops as well, and also in the water system in the region. In the meantime, rainfall becomes more variable, and sometimes predictability becomes a challenge. Our models show a strong swing between climatic extremes. Like in one season, a short-lived intense flood, a prolonged drought in the next season. This climatic whiplash, we call it usually, it's after it's coined by one of our colleagues, becoming more common in the region, which is mostly driven by global warming, ENSO effects, and also the Indian Ocean, warming of Indian Ocean is also affecting us. So what it means for the region is we are facing a mix of climatic extremes. Hotter conditions, more of multi-season droughts, more of severe floods, events, and sometimes these things are happening back to back. So these impacts are already affecting food security, public health, also pastoral mobilities. Obviously, we have seen that. I think our colleagues from ICPAL can talk more about it. It is their expertise. Infrastructures are also affected. So in general, the climate outlooks is telling us that there is a rising heat in the region.
Yes.
So variable rainfall and intense extremes in the region.
Thank you for putting that into context for us, Bekele. Now, Dr. Bet, you've heard what Bekele has talked about. He's talked about the climate projections. It doesn't look very good. In terms of disease burden, what is the pattern like? Are we going to see some emerging diseases due to this shifting climate pattern?
Let me break that into maybe 3 ways of describing it. One is we are seeing frequent outbreaks of diseases. Yesterday somebody mentioned Rift Valley fever in dry areas. You know, in the olden days, that disease used to occur every 5 years, you know, following El Nino rainfall patterns. But over the last few years, you have seen it coming out every 1 year, every 2 years. You hear, for example, in Kenya, we had one in 2018, 2020, 2024. So that frequency is increasing, largely because of what Bekele talked about, changing climate patterns. The second thing that also we need to realize is that the modeling also helps us to kind of check what is happening beneath the surface, which we may not be seeing with the naked eye. So things like changing, shifting, spreading of vectors, you know, things like ticks, mosquitoes, flies, those vectors which transmit diseases are slowly coming out from the, let's say, areas which you know to be dry and hot to the highlands. So you hear these things about now the shifting spatial range of diseases towards the highlands, which previously were not conducive to those vectors because maybe they were cold, but now because of temperature increase, we see those places being conducive to those conditions. Recently in Mombasa in Kenya, we had an outbreak of chikungunya in the coastal region because largely of the same conditions, you know, changing temperature and rainfall patterns. The third thing which I really want to highlight also is, you know, farmers have to do something when there are diseases. They have to use medicine. They have to treat animals. And so I think we are using much more antibiotics, much more acaricides for ticks, much more pyrethrins for, you know, mosquito control. And that has a huge impact on food systems. You know, today you put your animal on acaricides and the following day it's in the market, it's being sold for slaughter. Or you inject, we usually say inject tetracyclines because we use similar medicines like what human medicines do, you know, penicillins, tetracyclines, for treating this frequent occurrence of diseases. And those ones have huge impact in antimicrobial resistance. And at the end of the day, we are exposing ourselves to much more contaminated beef, meat, milk, because of increase in disease incidence, making us to act by treating animals and then doing that in a much more frequent manner in a way that then don't allow us to observe those withdrawal periods, and then we expose things to contamination of medicines.
Thank you for that, Dr. Bett. As a pastoralist, I can see things are not very good, maybe in the next decade, but I'm sure we'll try and see if our experts have solutions for that in terms of the right investment. So when we look at the livestock value chain, something that is very important, I keep on hearing in different forums, is something to do with the feed, the animal feed. And apparently, if you look at the latest data, we are literally in a crisis. So I'll ask Dr. Guyo to come in and tell us maybe what are the main drivers of feed scarcity and what can be done in order to cushion livestock farmers in the Horn of Africa. Dr. Guyo.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I think feed is one of the critical input to livestock. If you're in poultry, 80% of your cost is feed. If you're in dairy, I think it's almost 60%. In extensive systems, slightly different for pastoralists. But I think it just shows how critical feed are. And I think the reason why animals die is not like because of water largely, it's because of the feed, whether it's dry matter or any other kind of nutritious feed. So I think for us in the region, there's new innovation that came. We're looking at the feed balance sheet across the Ígad member states. This is an assessment to see how much of the feed need is met within the country. And the figures in the latest study shows 40% of our annual feed demand is unmet, which basically means that we need to work so much for us to bridge that gap. We need to understand a specific gap within each of the country. I think there are many reasons why we have feed deficit. One, a lot of our livestock feed come from the extensive rangeland systems. Rangeland has been deteriorating for quite a long time due to combination of factors. One factor is the weak governance. We're not governing our rangeland properly. The system that governs this rangeland is getting weaker. New institutions are coming without capacity, but has legitimacy, but it doesn't have the existence on the ground to enforce governance. So which means our range degradation, no one is working consistently to reverse it. We need to reverse the rangeland degradation as one of the things. But then, shockingly, the other thing that shows is that if you are in forage cereal sector, the cereal sector has certified seed that can be traded across member states. When you come to the grass, the certification, the standardization, the multiplication is not there. If I have a grass from Uganda and I want to trade it in Kenya, then it becomes a contraband, which means the grass seed has border. So it means we cannot develop a private sector that is thriving on seed trading. And then it makes the cost of seed very expensive because you have to smuggle in. You have to pay illegal money and all that. So basically, that contributes hugely to people who can multiply seeds. And the third, actually, is also the trade. Private sector space is very small in this area. If you go to Kenya, let's say, and you talk to Unga Feed and ask them, why don't you establish factory in Marsabit, where I come from? What they tell you is that pastoral areas have seasonal demand. It doesn't create a business case for them to establish pellets factory to feed animals. While people in the peri-urban areas with land restrictions always need feed. So you find in Ethiopia, all the feed processors are either in Shagar, in Bushoftu, in Adama, just the peri-urban of Addis Ababa, because there's a business case for them and they're in for business. So nobody can subsidize. So we need to be very creative in terms of either giving tax holidays, giving other incentives for these processors to come closer to the people. Otherwise, they cannot do business, they'll run out of business. So I think combination of all those factors, weak rangeland governance, system that govern range, seed issue, certification issue, weakness of private sector, all these things are contributing factor to the deficit of 40% annually, which is unmet across member states. Thank you.
Clearly, the work is cut out for Eggad, so that we have some sort of regional, concerted effort to take care of the seeds issue. Next, Fahima. Now, Fahima, we've heard all about challenges. We've seen that the next 10 years don't look very good. And I'm sure our audience here are thinking, what will happen to pastoralists? So just tell us, what are you doing in Djibouti that you think might give us a light at the end of the tunnel?
Okay, thank you. But I would like to go with what our doctor just said. Yesterday with FRSP, we had a project and had this story, and I think it will come one day into life. It's seed borderless, means seed borderless within Ígad region. So firstly, I'm here to bring the voices for the people who are in the field, who produce, who nurture. And you have to know also, from where I come from, livestock is not only an economic asset, it's dignity, it's food, it's culture, but also is survival. I think for the next 10, not even 5 years, farmers like me, we had to go from cash crop to feed. That's what I did. And when I did, people were like, are you crazy? Stay with your cash crop. And when I say cash crops, like gumbo, like tomatoes, the normal thing, vegetables. I said, no. And I'm going, because why? I'm like 10 minutes from a quarantine area where all the livestock are shipped to, Arab countries. I said, I'm not too far from them. So this is, that's why now I'm trying within our farmers, they could understand.
Sure.
Yes.
And just tell us, there's some time back, did you end up with seeds from India? Can
Yes.
you just tell us that experience briefly?
That's the thing I was talking about, borderless seeds. Today in Ígad region, it's really easy to import seed from India, but it's really difficult to import seed from Kenya. Last time I went to Nairobi, I took a lot of seeds, and when I came to the airport, they stopped me. They say, where the seeds are coming from? So same thing, I tried to get seed from France. I came to Djibouti airport, and I could get in with my seed. Why? Because those seeds came, with a certification when I bought it from Paris. But when I took it from Kenya, there's no certification. I went to a shop. So that's the thing now. How can we have seeds and certify, but also register? I will know who produced it and where it comes from. That's where I'm talking about this project. It's a campaign within Íغad region, with influencer, with journalists, and the name is Borderless Seed.
What a nice name. Thank you, Fahima, for that. So back to you, Bekele. You've given us the climate projections. So before we talk about the required investments that can at least help cushion livestock keepers in the Horn of Africa, talk to us about the early warning and early action. Because as journalists, mostly we tend to cover the early warning. We tell people, get ready, floods is coming, or we're going to face drought. So tell us about that, and how can you connect, or how can different governments and development partners connect early warning to early action?
I think, what can I say is, nowadays in Great Horn of Africa, ICPAC is getting better in predicting these climate shocks. The challenge comes when to connect these early warnings to early action. So the problem, I think, to align these two things, to me, I think we should work on three things. The first thing, we need a trust and a clear communication to this warning, to the community, to the people. You know, usually the kind of forecast we are producing is more of technical and it's more of probabilistic. Now I'm telling you that there is 65% of chance to rain next season. So what I'm seeing from media, I'm not confronting you. So the media is echo back this for the community. 65% of chance is going to likely to rain in the next season. What does it mean for the community? How could they understand this? Let me tell you what happened in 2021. I was not at ICPAC at that time. I joined ICPAC like 6 months ago, okay? In 2021, I was in this stakeholder engagement, and some experts from ICPAC present this forecast for participants. Some of them are coming from a farmer community. And finally, when she get a chance, she raised her hand and asked about, now you said 65, you said this. I'm a farmer. Is it going to rain? Am I going to plant or not? Just tell me this. This is the kind of information the community is looking for. So I think the media and other enemies who's going to communicate this information, which is coming from technically, they don't need to echo back for us, for technical people who understand that. They should tell the wider audience in a way they can understand that. Let me tell you one, which I learned from my mother. I think our house is oriented in the direction like south-north. Now, whenever there is a cloud, based on, maybe I can't put it exactly the direction. According to the house in the front direction, when the cloud is getting darker and coming from that side, she will tell you that that rain is not going to reach here. She's always right, I will tell you. Sometimes we will see that it's coming very closer and it will go back. Sometimes it will come, a very light rain, and shower in our village and it goes. But when it comes to in the other direction, she will tell you that heavy rain is coming. She knows from even the cloud. This is the way you are going to tell. For when we are telling to this 65-35%, we have to tell the community the way they understand the weather. Okay, now, if I know that there is 60% chance of coming the rain, I will tell that the rain is coming, like my mother, it's coming from this direction. So it's going to be a light rain or something like that.
Yes.
Sorry. This is the way it should be communicated. The other thing is we need to have a pre-agreed action, action plan, and financing should be there. I mean, early action doesn't wait for a meeting or a financing. When some warning is issued, you are not going to call a meeting to set a budget. It should be there, and everyone should know this playbook, a shared playbook, how to govern with that, and early action should be automatic whenever the warning is issued or the forecast surpasses some threshold value. So the last thing, a strong last mile delivery. That's very important. You know, you have to have deliver this early warning information to the community. Otherwise, early action is not important unless it reaches the community at that level with some in a very fast manner. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Bekele, and thanks for sharing your personal story there. Your mom doing whatever she was doing without the situation room that you have at ICPAC. So, Dr. Bet, in 2022, I believe, Kenya, especially the northern part, the pastoralist region faced, actually, by extension, the Horn of Africa. We experienced one of the worst droughts after about 5 consecutive rains which had failed. And by then, Kenya lost about 2.5 million livestock. Up until yesterday, the government was trying to restock what was lost. So from your perspective, and I'm sure from your research you have the recommendations bit, what are your recommendations as far as what governments need to prioritize to protect livestock health and by extension the climate change impacts in the region?
Yeah, yes, I think the discussions have been happening, especially within the departments of veterinary services across the Ígad region, on the need really to do much more coordinated effort in terms of planning better vaccinations. Because, you know, when you have protected animals, you know, when you're immunized animals, they are stronger to resist challenges from disease, challenges from ill health. So the catch we usually have in these regions is this wide movement. You know, our animals from, let's say, Turkana usually graze in the dry season in Uganda. Animals from the eastern side may move to Somalia. So that coordinated effort in terms of vaccination is really what is needed. Secondly, also, we need to work closely with communities. You know, if we just develop these policies at the higher level without working with them, then we really leave behind people who should be implementing what we are proposing to do. So they should actually also be investing so much in disease control measures so that at the end of the day, they get there. The third is working more on research to develop new technologies for managing these conditions. So I could give you an example of the vaccines that we are developing usually require what we call cold chain. You can't take some of the vaccines to very hot places without, you know, cooling systems around you. And so there's been research to develop vaccines which can actually be sold or even transported without the need for that elaborate cold chain, like PPR vaccination tools. Yeah, so those are the things which, the other thing, we also need to work closely with, you know, climate scientists like, you know, ICPAC and others to really strengthen these early warning signals. And I liked the comment which was made yesterday by one of your colleagues that, you know, an early warning action really determines what thresholds we should be looking at, what actions should be implemented once you reach those thresholds, and what financing do we need to put in place to make sure that we do that. So that coordinated modeling efforts between climate scientists and animal health should be strengthened for early warning signals.
Thank you very much for that. Dr. Guyo, let me take you to the just concluded COP30 in Brazil. I believe Brazil is one of the largest producers of beef in the world. And I'd like to take you straight on the data gaps and evidence gaps and how livestock has been framed globally. There are those who see livestock as a problem, the emissions and everything. And there are experts who are calling on mostly people from the African countries to focus on plant-based protein rather than animal-based protein. Can you just tell us what are some of the gap? Because from where I sit, I can see a huge gap between what is happening, as we call it, on the ground and what is happening globally.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I think the COP conversation is very interesting. I've been to so many COPs. I stopped going to COPs, actually. I didn't go to Brazil, but I've gone to 5 other COPs to speak on behalf of the livestock and African pastoralist. So this is how the conversation is. Understandably, livestock is one of the contributor of methane, which is one of the greenhouse gases, which is injurious and also create all these global warming conversations. So what happened is that in the COP, the discussion is how do we mitigate the contribution of methane and other gases in the space. So livestock come through that. Of course, there are the other industrial, oil and other fossil fuel. But the livestock come from that end. The catch is that the footprint of livestock within intensive system or ranch system like in Kyrgyzstan, in Mongolia, in Brazil, in Uruguay where I also worked, is that they collect this information quite strongly because they know the feed combination, they know the type of animal, the size of the animal, and the contribution is very easy. Here, we don't do those things. So, and that data gap means that when Agnes, which is African group of negotiators, goes to the table, they have no data to argue for African livestock. So what it means is that the northern livestock footprint is used on southern livestock. Because of that gap, certainly because of that gap. So, and we haven't done quite structured investment to build this case. As livestock in extensive system graze across large landscape, they have ecological contribution because when animals move in ecology, we call them the bulldozer effect. They move around, they dig the grass seeds in the seed bank. And then the grass diversity is better, the diversity of plants are better, the above ground carbon sink gets better. But those data still remain very conceptual. It is not very practical. So what happened is that we don't have any experimentation across Horn of Africa to look at pastoral livestock contribution to the climate, impact. Because of that, it has so many knock-on effects. At the negotiation, you have the weak negotiation power. When you are writing proposals for the Green Climate Fund, GCF, JF, Adaptation Fund, you have no evidence to argue for this sector. So all of us who design projects, the big projects at JF, GCF, always have the limitation when it comes to defend, because you have to defend the project like a PhD thesis. So they said your weak data point does not allow you to invest in the following. So you see, it stops you from getting the climate money. It also helps you, it doesn't help you to sit on the table to negotiate for your animals. So that data gap is actually a big issue in our region that require consistent research to collect this data, wherever they are in some pilot cases, and build a case. And none of the countries are doing that. We keep on pushing member states to consider this as an important point. I think, to me, that's my practical understanding of that. Thank you.
Thank you for that. You've already said you've stopped going to COPs, but I think the next one is happening in Addis after Turkey. I hope you don't miss out on that.
No, actually, I go to UNCCD COP now, because the UNCCD COP is more relevant for us, for dryland, for pastoralists, and we discuss more close issues to us. African rangelands, rangeland flagships, drought. All these issues are very central to that COP, which is happening in Mongolia. International of Rangeland and Pastoralism is happening next year in Mongolia. So we'll still engage the relevant space, but then pull from the other one because you have no power to speak for the people. Thank you.
That's a real pastoralist speaking. And I always take an opportunity to talk about where he comes from. We share the same county. There's no conflict of interest. I don't work for government, no problem. He comes from Marsabit. And for you to have roughly how Marsabit looks like, picture where Rwanda is. Marsabit is double the size of Rwanda in some balance. That's how big that county is. So, Fahima, we've talked about what you're doing in Djibouti. There are those who talk about farmers. They don't see Fahima in their minds. They see something else. So tell us, how are you trying to bring more people on board in Djibouti? We're going to practice what you're doing. And talk to us about the communication strategy that you're using.
Okay, I started 8 years ago. When I started, it was really difficult. People did not believe that it's easier for a woman. But we had an idea. We say we want to have like PhD, masters, people who go master's PhD into farming. And people were saying, why? We respect, farmers who did not do any studies, who never went to school. And some of them are my teachers. But our idea is like to, and how you say, in French, they say redorer le blason. in English, it will be like, who is French speaker here? He's like,
You have French speakers here?
put the limelight, yes, put the limelight on agriculture. So what I do in my farm, we set up it's like a studio. We set up like camera and everything. I'm in my farm, nice color, nice makeup. I go in the farm and I talk and I say, hello, this is, and few people will come to me and I will say, oh, today we harvest this, and I talk about money. This is agribusiness. This is nothing, like you said yesterday, nothing to do with NGO. I never get help. I got $0 given by NGO to me. I never receive, because this is a business. This is for me a business, farming. It's not about aid. I can accept, like fans, things like that, but never money or funds. Yes. Because people, NGO don't like to talk about money. It's funds. And so what we do is till today, I had the chance to set up 76 people into farming. And what I do, I'll fund land for them. I help them to settle. Sometimes I manage. All for free, yeah? It's free. And this is, for me, an advocacy. And because when people talk about Djibouti, they see a dry land, they see a country who has not a lot of, rain. So for them, farming is, so I show them something completely different. In my country, in 1977, my uncle was the first person to become a Minister of Agriculture, in 77. I was not born that time. And Djibouti has a like nice area of farming. But what happened, people nowadays, they want to come into Djibouti. Djibouti city and coming, is a rural, and people come from region to come straight to the capital. So people just left, the land. So we had over, let's say, 30, 50, 100 hectares, abandoned. And so my idea is like how to do, but for the 7 years, now people are, and sometimes people call me and say, Fahima, stop telling people to find lands. We are tired. We don't have enough lands. And that's how it goes. And my biggest dream is like people can see farming as a like workplace. They can see like an office. They can see like where they can actually and take a lot of money. In Ethiopia, is something people know. There's a big, land farming. But in my country, people don't see farming as a way of life. So I stop all my work and I'm leaving from farming. So that's what I do. And we got also a podcast. Yes. The name is 253 Talk. If you can follow us, Seed of Resilience. We put in, there's like 4 languages. It's English, French, Somali, and Afar. And now Arab. Because in Djibouti we got people who speak Arabic. We got people who speak Afar. We got people who speak Somali like me. And French is, our, national and English. Why? Because we want also the Íغاد region, because you have to know also Djibouti, we are like stranded. We speak French. We are all around, people all around us speak English. And so it's also that people who live in the same region will understand, will know what actually is going on. So if you don't know me, my name's Fahima, Farm Girl. You can follow me in Twitter, in LinkedIn, in Facebook. I don't have a YouTube channel yet. So that's what we do. That's what we do with my
the name
team,
of the podcast is
253 Talk.
253
Yes, the prefix of Djibouti and Talk.
In Kenya we are 254.
Yes, and I would like to...
You'll inspire people in Kenya.
Exactly. And I would like to leave a message to everyone here, for the youth, for the women. Please, if you can get it into farming, if you can get it into farming, please do it. Because firstly, you're not going to lose. If nobody buys something from you, you're going to eat it. Then you're going to never lose it. So go into farming. And to the parent, I know you love to have, kids, daughters to be like lawyers, journalists, like doctors, but agronomists. Go into irrigation. That's what's missing. Specialists in irrigation, specialists in soil restoration, specialists in seed banks. This is one of the things I'm dreaming. And when I see people say, oh, my daughter, she's just graduate a new lawyer. What she's going to do if you have nothing to eat? Who's going to help if she has nothing to eat? That's what's going to happen to the next 30 years. And I follow what our doctor was saying. I'm a cup septic. I've never been to a cup. I'm a cup septic. I think our region in Africa, we got, we can actually find solution for our own problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Fahima, for that. Clearly, that's a food for thought for the rest of us as we try to be food secure in this continent. Dr. Bekele, you've talked about the projections, you've talked about the heat stress, the impact it has on the livestock. So I know it's difficult to come up with a solution to tackle all this. So how do we strengthen, or what kind of investments are you looking at that are needed immediately to protect livestock keepers in the Horn of Africa?
We are doing both in terms of rainfall and temperature. We speak about that. So heat stress is no longer a distant concern in our region. It becomes rapidly one of the biggest threats in livestock, but the thing is, it is underestimated so far. This is there is one project we are working with the Iqbal, our colleague. So what we are seeing in the region is the heat stress is becoming very prominent, and it becomes a big concern right now. I think we need smart investments and practical strategies to overcome this. The first thing, what we are really encouraging is to improve the water access system in the region. I think yesterday it has been discussed by colleagues from Idrisi. They have been doing this thing for a long period, but we need more now and in the future, because the science is showing us that the things are going to intensify while the temperature is increasing in the projection. I think rehabilitation, the existing ones, and improve more, maybe new boreholes, and also the storage system is one thing. I think maybe active cooling systems might not be really important one. They are important ones, but might not be viable for our region. But a better shelter. We cannot keep animals longer in a fence only. We need a shelter, very good ones, to cool them down. That could be as a strategy. Okay, some of the things are already mentioned by my colleague. Rangeland management is very important. Smart rangeland management. It's already degraded. It's also, we advised to work on heat-resistant fodder species, like my colleague Bet also mentioned that one. So I think we used to do at ILRI, my former role from ILRI, we used to map different cultivars. Most of the time at ILRI, I used to work for the food crops, but we need to do the same more for the animal crops also. Heat resistant, we have to map. I mean, the climate projections are based on some assumptions, like if we are behaving and start protecting our environment, there is one projection for that one. Even if we start behaving well right now, we are going to pay for what we did before. That one is there. We are almost there for the first 2 degrees centigrade. The others are the worst scenarios. If we continue aggressively exploiting the planet, if we continue in that direction, there is another one. So we have to do these suitability maps for all these heat-resistant species across all of these projections. We don't know which direction we are going. You know, sometimes we behave good, sometimes, you know, what this world is revolving around. So animal health services and early warning, it has been mentioned so many times as a strategy is very important. Also heat-tolerant breeds, maybe it can be discussed by colleagues from the ICPALD or ILRI more about it. Genetic improvement is necessary. I don't like GMO, but we don't have an option. We have to survive. We have to eat. We have to survive. I think that is the future, because animals should be able to cope up with the incoming changes. So we need some GMOs. I don't know. We have to improve in that direction. So in general, in combination, it involves combining infrastructures, ecosystem management, and early warning systems. If we bring this as a strategy, maybe it could help us to cope up.
Thank you for that, Bekele. Bet, what investments do we need to see? And I know ILRI has offices in Addis Ababa and maybe other countries. Do we need to see more labs, more community health workers, data systems? What do you think are the key priorities as far as investments are concerned?
At ILRI, that's International Livestock Research Institute, we have a unit, a project we call it Climate Hub, and they are looking at multiple interventions that can be used. So there is a team that's working on breeding animals. So we breed animals which are more heat tolerant and more productive in these arid, semi-arid areas, which we could say which fit in that environment much better. There's also a team that's looking at feeds and feed, and they have a tool that's used for assessing what feed varieties we need in a given environment, and that's ongoing. My own work looks at how we can use climate data to improve surveillance systems and improve things like vaccination coverage, and this is what we are calling vaccination calendars, so that each veterinary units could be in a district or a county can achieve a minimum level of coverage that's required for disease control. What is happening in our countries now is you have patchy vaccinations here and there, and that really doesn't help, because at the end of the day, it's a drop in an ocean. You vaccinate a few animals here, and when a disease comes, it sweeps across that population as if nothing was done. So we need a much more guided, controlled vaccination. So I've said about Climate Hub, which is really coordinating all these scientists to come together and bring together all these interventions in a given area. But one thing that I really still find a gap is at the community level, there is increasing population of humans, increasing animal populations, because when we get richer, we buy animals and we still bring back animals to that fragmented ecosystems. And so I think there's much more conversation that's needed at the community level in terms of optimizing stocking rates, so that if an event of a drought comes, then that loss isn't really felt that much higher than what is happening now. So we should also be able to educate communities on, you know, selling animals when you're given a warning that things are getting worse. We should be able to offload. When things are improving, we're able to buy. So that's beyond what we are doing on the research perspective. I think there's much more work that needs to be done at the community level to really improve resilience to climate.
Thank you. Dr. Guyot, I've seen the data that ICPALD has shared through Eegad. 40 million plus people in the Horn of Africa depend on livestock for survival. Looking at the GDP, the contribution the livestock makes in some Eegad member countries, from your data again, it contributes to about 50% plus to the GDP. But here again, we see livestock being framed in a way that is not very pleasing. So we are at the Eegad Media Awards. So I'd like to ask you, what do you think is the role of media in trying to frame the story of livestock? And because in journalism, we say if you don't frame your story, somebody else is going to do it for you. And clearly, others are doing it for us at the moment. What do you think media should do? Are we going to see more cooperation between organizations like you as in the media?
Okay, thank you very much. Let me try. It's a big question. We had a conversation last week with all the ministers of livestock across the member state here in Addis Ababa. And it's the conversation about positioning livestock. What do we want as an investment across? What are the policy issues and barriers that countries have to work on, including the issues around facilitated transhumance? We have transhumance protocol that has been signed by countries, but is not fully domesticated. So this question keeps on coming back. But I think to answer your question, the number that you quoted is already problematic. It's only livestock where GDP contribution is static. Whether the animal grow, where people trade more in animals, the GDP contribution remain the same. The number of livestock population remain almost the same or non-existent in some countries. So for some of us who work in that space, we're already struggling with member state to at least, you cannot manage what you can count. If you don't know the number of your livestock, then you just waste your time. So this conversation on data came strongly in the conversation with the ministers, because our GDP contribution, agricultural GDP contribution to agricultural GDP, national GDP, livestock population in the country, the spread of livestock in today's technology, where you have all the technologies to assess. I have a role in the UK university as a supervisor of PhD student, and one of the PhD students, interestingly, in the UK, in Scotland, is counting an explored landmine in Vietnam, looking at the pattern that old landmines create on the ground. Immediately I said, why can't we use this technology to count camels? It's very easy to count because it's bigger than that landmine space. So what I am trying to say is actually, we need to embed more, technologies, machine learning, AI, to first get the numbers right. So in Eegad now, I'm leading something called Livestock Stat Flagship, which is trying to bring the prominence of number to that space. So in future, you might find ICPAL hosting a livestock statistics space where you can have an interactive map. You click on a country, you look at species distribution, the productive size of animal, death rate. We caught death rate recently in the drought, 13 million across all of Africa. And you ask, where is that number from? Nobody knows where the number came from. Is that problematic? So I think for the media fraternity, these are important questions, because this is what drives narrative. This is what drives investment. This is what drives policy positions. Until we crack that, we'll always be talking about drought. And I think lastly is the question of drought. We're seeing intensification of drought shocks on one side from the model, but our response architecture in the countries remain the same. We responded to drought in the same 50 years ago. Of drought, a president has to declare it as a national emergency, then it gets attention, it gets redistribution of budget. So if we really want to question these issues, why don't you embrace, a better innovation of pool fund? You create money that is actually accessible to countries and regions with drought, with 50% is accessible to people to do resilience investments on water, infrastructure, and everything, and then maybe 40% to emergency and some percentage to recovery. Kenya did that, but the pot is not fully resourced. We have the regulation, but the money in that fund is not there. So to me, I think these are the critical questions that has to come to the light. And I think for the media guys, finally, is numbers of livestock trade in this region is very huge. We have the biggest exporter of livestock to the Gulf as Eegad member states. But then, if you look at the country level investment, we're not actually tapping into that opportunity of being a supplier of those animals. We're not taking advantage of that supply specification that is required from this region. So these are the important questions that one has to ask. What is the livestock sold in Kenya? What is the contribution? And then we start now working on the numbers that you mentioned in terms of contribution to GDP, to bigger things. Then we drive policy and we change the narrative. I think changing narrative takes a long process. We get in there, we need to question these numbers. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Guyo. And of course, I'm sure from now on, we're going to see close collaboration between ICPAC and the media. So unfortunately, we are almost out of time. So Fahima, I'll give you an opportunity to give us your closing remarks. Now it's ladies first. I'm starting with her as we move this way.
Thank you, and I'm really happy, and I hope that one day I'm going to be on your TV. This is the first TV on pastoralism. Yes,
inshallah,
yes.
Inshallah.
Me, the last thing I want to say is livestock is not just part of the food system in our region, and it's the hard resilience. So we have to take care of it. So when I'm really happy to be on this panel in ICPAL, because in French it's ICPAL. And the only thing I'm going to say and repeat is heat-resistant seed and strong seed, and also, training between members in the Eegad regions.
Thank you. Let me go to Dr. Bekele. Dr. Guyo just spoke, so let me go there and then come this way.
Okay, as a final remark, I would like to say that where animals are losing productivity, as colleagues have mentioned, so heat waves are really weakening immunity systems, and water pasture demand is increasing, and it's going to also sharply increasing in the future. That is, at least we know what is going to happen, even if we start behaving very well. So I think we should work towards improving this issue, which we are going to issue the early warning to early action system and try to support the resilience of the livestock keepers and work together to make more it resilient community in the region.
Thank you. Dr. Bett?
Yeah, I think we have discussed much, but I just say climate change is really a big thing now. It has been a big thing all the time, but you know, we need all of us to work together because the effects are much broader than what we see. You know, when I work on animal health, I fully understand that in addition to impacting on health of animals, it has major impacts on the ecosystem. And unless we team together and work jointly, people doing reforestation, reseeding of ecosystems, resilience, drought management, financing, small steps here and there will not really add too much until all of us come together to address this major challenge.
Thank you. Let me give it to the man from the largest county in Kenya, the final word.
Okay, thank you. I think for me, the parting shot is that climate change is a problem without passport. It crosses frontiers uninvited, and I think we're in this problem together. As a student of ecology, we are told ecological boundaries are fluid, but then within that fluid boundaries, we have political boundaries which are rigid. That's why we have problem across member states. I think we need to embrace opportunities to open up the rigid political boundaries to accommodate the ecological realities of this region. And I think I mentioned Transhumance Protocol is one of those innovations that has worked in ECOWAS across 15 member states. It should work for us. And I think that means if we embrace, ratify the protocol, we have to have investment corridors for pastoralists. And each country has to put commensurate investment so that mobility as one of the traditional and oldest system for escaping episodic like drought is entrenched across long distance. And those corridors are very important. We're mapping all those corridors right now, and I hope at some point, as we wait for borderless seeds to work, research to come and save things, we use our traditional opportunities to expand the boundaries and enhance mobility. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have room for question and answer? Or we wrap up? We wrap up? Okay, I'm told everyone is looking forward to tonight's award. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for your powerful insights, Dr. Bekele, Dr. Bet, Dr. Guyo, and Fahim all the way from Djibouti. Let's give them another powerful round of applause. And thank you very much to the audience here. You've also been amazing, staying with us for the last 1 hour or so. So let me now hand over to our MC of the day. I think we have one more panel, then we'll go straight to what you all have been waiting for, which is tonight's dinner. Thank you very much. Asanteni sana. Yes, that's very good.
Thank you very much, Yusuf, and the whole ICPAL panelists. Next on stage, we'll have FSRP team. FSRP team, they'll be discussing on matters food systems resilience. And moderating this panel is Mr. Gesachu? Gemachisa, Ethiopian names. Mr. Gemachisa, Director, POA English. Please come on stage. A round of applause for Mr. Gemachisa.
Greetings to all of you. Thank you very much for coming here. I'm really privileged and honored to stand before you to say a few things about this particular panel. I'm a moderator, And just to begin with the background. Well, of course, climate change in the Horn of Africa and its impact has been talked about, has been explained very well by experts yesterday and today. And ours is also at this particular panel. Similar things are to be talked about, to be discussed by panelists. Specifically, this panel comes to you with the theme of storytelling for climate action for a secure, resilient, and a stable region, and particularly food security in the Íghad region, how it is intertwined with the health of its land, water, and ocean ecosystems. Of course, the health of the land in the Horn of Africa, the health of the water, the health of the ocean ecosystems is directly related to what we eat, to how much food we can have, from the region, the health of the food that we consume. So our panelists will tell us about how climate change throughout the years have impacted the food security in the Horn of Africa. And we have, of course, two things here, the land and, of course, the blue economy, or this aquaculture, or anything that has to do with water bodies, rivers, lakes, maybe, for those coastal countries, oceans. When these are not healthy, food security is, of course, compromised. And this is a very important thing. So we have experts who are coming to us to the stage and to share with us what they know about these things. So I just would like to begin with Ebony Hay, with 17 years, more than 17 years of expertise in sustainable agriculture, climate resilience, and international development in the Ministry of Agriculture and German International Cooperation, EIZ. Emily Hay is a visionary leader in international development and agricultural advocacy, driven by a profound commitment to economic empowerment and system exchange. Her core mission is to elevate the livelihoods of farming families by directing development funding and strategic innovation directly to the grassroots level. And so she is one of our important panelists, and she will be taking the stage. The second one is excuse me. Oh. Okay. Second one is Dr. Sylvia. Excuse me. Okay, a second, excuse me. I couldn't handle the laptop. Sylvia Enga, he's an accomplished climate-smart agriculture livelihood expert with Bachelor of Science in Agriculture, Master of Science in Plant Breeding, and a PhD in Agriculture and Seed Science. She has certificates in leadership, communication and counseling, mentorship, entrepreneurship, and one health for development. So she has got relevant experience and knowledge in the topic that is going to be raised in this panel. Well, the other one is, of course, Dr. Shete Dejan, who is an Ethiopian, and he's, of course, a program manager for sustainable environment and coordinator of Blue Economy, Agriculture and Environment Division of Íghad. He did his MS and PhD in Wageningen University and Research, the Netherlands. Prior joining Íghad, he served the government of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia at various capacities and responsibilities. Another Ethiopian, Dr. Addis Tashome Kabeda, Dr. Adista Shomakabere is an Ethiopian currently working as the monitoring, evaluation and learning expert at the Land Governance Unit of the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, Ígad. He holds PhD from University of Nairobi in agricultural entomology and an executive master's in development policies and practices from Graduate Institute of International and Development Studies. I think we have all our panelists here. Of course, the ladies are from Kenya, they're Kenyans, and we are very happy to have them here. So what is the theme or the objective of this panel? This panel is set to explore how integrated management of land, agriculture, and blue economy resources can strengthen food systems resilience and improve nutrition and livelihoods across the Ígad region. And I just would like to begin with Dr. Sylvia. Dr. Sylvia, I would like to begin with asking you how climate change is reshaping food production and access in the Ígad region, and how is the Food Systems Resilience Program addressing these challenges?
Thank you again for this opportunity. I'll start by making a context. So Ígad region is operating in an area where there's massive food insecurity. At the moment, this year's data gives us about 42% food insecure people. We have about 8 million nutritious and safe children who are struggling, deaths due to stunting, and we also have high rates of displacement at about 22%. So why climate change is important in Ígad's or Africa's agriculture is the fact that we are still relying on rain-fed agriculture or natural agriculture with very minimal use of technology. So you realize we are relying on sun drying, we are still doing flood irrigation and very minimal use of technology, which means any small change in temperature, change in rainfall, loss of rainfall, it means massive impact. So that's a major problem. We are over-dependent on our natural resources, while other areas are already doing controlled environments, glass house technologies and things like that. So that makes us really over-dependent on nature, which is a challenge. Low industrialization is another problem. So instead of processing our products, we are eating them raw. We are depending on the local markets, you know, fresh produce without looking at how we're able to process and store, add value. So that makes us highly, really sensitive to climate change, because then if we don't have reserves, then as long as there is no rainfall tomorrow, then we don't have food. 1 minute there's high rainfall, excess production, another minute, or even regionally, even within the region, there's disappropriate impact of the climate change. So one area is having high produce, another area is having no food. So that becomes a major challenge because our borders are not very clear. We are supposed to trade clearly across ourselves, but we are not. So that's a major, major challenge in the Ígad region. And also, the general impact of climate change. If the local farmers or our region depends highly on agriculture, which is currently at 70% average, it means we are not processing these products, or we need to shift to industrialization. So that means our incomes are largely dependent on farming. And that's really a challenge, and that's a characteristic of poor nations. So that's a major, major issue, and therefore it becomes very climate sensitive. So that means if there are floods, I can go to the farm, I have no income, I have no food. A really big challenge. So with that, some of the things we need to do, we need to promote sustainable, climate smart and nutrient sensitive agricultural systems within Ígad region. That we will be able to tackle both nutrition, you know, and food security at the same time. So we need to promote technology, you know, post-harvest technology that is able to ensure that, you know, there are ways in which we keep this food safe even as we process it. So those are some of the things the region needs to take, because technology uptake is still quite low. and even technology development itself is a major challenge. We invest very little in our agriculture. With the push for 10%, we are still at around 1%, 2%, and 0 point something percent. So that makes the region highly sensitive to agriculture. Other issues on what the region needs to do is to look at anticipatory action rather than wait to react to information. ICPAC yesterday was saying how they have been working hard to really give predictions and early warning, but what are we doing with this information? So we need to act fast and create anticipatory action, like having safety nets that are productive safety nets. This is where, like, for example, if we are dealing with the high level, you have seen the refugees and the returnees are very many. We still need to feed them because they are part of the population. So the government should consider using productive zones and industrial zones where they're able to employ and absorb these people very fast, and they have food and they have income at the same time. So livelihoods approach to safety nets is one of those anticipatory actions that would be very critical. And then policies and critical issues on evidence-based data sharing. The aspect of tracking what we do, where our money goes, and our programs and the impact is, for me, very critical, because if we do not leverage this it's an information age, and any decision, whether you're deciding to apply fertilizer on your field as a farmer, or even as a policy maker creating a new policy, let's say on seeds, or seed systems, or trade and markets, then the aspect of data and right data is very, very critical. And that's where the role of media will later on will come, that the cost of wrong data is really an issue in our region. And therefore, we need to look at that critical. Some technologies, like just using trade monitors, have already been invented, and we can apply that to have policy monitors, you know, our water system monitors, you know, and so that will help to improve our economy. And just building on issues of sustainability, relying on leveraging on the circular economy. Rebuild, reuse, recycle. We keep repeating, we need to rebuild our systems. Our lands are degraded, our soils, we have lost our soils and very infertile. So how do we reuse, recycle our nutrients just within the farm? That is affordable to the farmer, you know, so that they are not over-relying on the imports of fertilizers, but they're able to use the localized materials from the trees, the leaves, you know, the leftover kitchen waste, and recycles them to be able to improve nutrition on farm. So that would help to sustain the environment beyond. So what Ígad is doing through the Food Systems Resilience Program, although there are also other programs, we are trying to work on looking at areas on productivity. How can we increase in productivity? One way by leveraging on technology to control agricultural information. So one is called Digital Agricultural Advisory Services. So this platform will enable us to give live information to the farmer. They're able to decide if the climate has changed, if predictions from ICPAC are saying we are not going to have our rainfall coming late. So which seed then would I pick at this time, you know, that has low water use efficiency, rather than grow the same variety that is traditionally done? So that would be very critical. Another thing the Food Systems Resilience Ígad is doing, we are working to change the trade value chain or improve them. You know, so analyzing what are the challenges within our trade markets and leveraging on some existing opportunities, removing the tariff, working towards helping our countries reduce the tariff and non-tariff barriers so that member states are able to really trade across each other. So this is important. Then trade infrastructure should be built. How do we ensure that at the trade markets, at our markets, we have sufficient water, safety of our food is ensured, there is storage of our products. If we look at a layman point of view, if you picture your markets today, half of the food you see it on the ground, yeah, especially our vegetables, we step on them. So we are still losing 30 to 40% of our produce. So again, as FSRP, we are looking at how can we help our countries to train, have capacity, and be able to create structures that would really restore our sanity in our markets and therefore improve exports rather than over-reliance on imports. And also we are working a lot on policies, several policies on food security and nutrition, policies on post-harvest food losses, etc. And finally, we have one major intervention that is called the Soil Hub. So we are using a multi-approach system, bundling of technology, bundling of fundings to be able to ensure that we have multi-dimensional approach. So the Soil Hub, for example, is an approach that is pushing towards healthy soils for the region. Remember, soil is one of the highest that is impacted by climate change. When temperature rise, we have increased evaporation, and then we lose our soil moisture, we lose our biodiversity. So we need to continually find ways of sustaining this soil, not just for us, and like the topic says, to feed the future generation, even as the population is changing. So I think I'll pause there for now. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Dr. Sylvia, thank you very much. Just to wrap up what Dr. Sylvia has shared us, of course, she just began with the challenges. There is high dependency on nature for agricultural producers or inputs, adding no value to agricultural productivity, which means most of the time in many African countries, of course, most of the producers are not added value. As a result, their prices in the international market gets very low. And on the other hand, again, those countries that import, our food, they value add, and then, just they bring it back to us. They export it back to us, and then for that, we need to pay a lot of money. And this has to stop, of course. And Ígad countries are, especially in the case of Dr. Sylvia, some interventions have been made to stop this, to avoid this, at least to mitigate this. And she suggested, of course, smart agriculture, promote technology, and of course, the intervention of the government in this case should be to create industrial zones for people who rely on, for example, people with very low income. So these people don't have jobs, and they just are supported by the government just to keep body and soul together, and this has to stop, and rather their livelihood has to improve. This has been mentioned by Dr. Sylvia, and then the other one is monitoring the use of water, land, and soil. We don't do this monitoring most of the time, and so we don't know very much about the soil fertility, the soil sustainability, etc. And this has to be examined scientifically by people. Dr. Sylvia herself need to come in and then use their scientific knowledge and skill to determine the value of the soil. So the government needs to work with them, with experts, with knowledgeable people. And producing locally made fertilizer to sustain productivity. This is also very important. When we import fertilizers from other countries, we pay a lot again. So this is, one of the strategies to minimize importing from other countries and rather utilizing our own resources available to us, around us, with low cost, and that is a very good thing. The other one is, of course, she mentioned that digital agricultural services for farmers, real-time climate prediction. These are also very important things that Ígad member countries need to give attention to. Of course, analyzing trade markets, reduce tariff to agricultural products, especially when this trade, takes place amongst these Ígad member countries. The tariff should be compromised by the government, and the government, even though it might not be as advantageous, it supports these nations, the people. For example, in the previous panel, cross-border communication, cross-border trade, and the policies of the governments were mentioned to be, one challenge. And if Ígad member states, deal with this situation, especially in any trade that happens, along the borders of the countries, then the communities will benefit a lot. And I think, Dr. Sylvia is meant by this. She said that doing this will help the people, the population in these Íغad member states to benefit, the farmers especially. Create a structure for markets, minimize imports, food losses. Food loss is also one big problem because we use very traditional methods to collect food items or produces, and as a result, we lose a lot more, a big portion of what we have produced. And we need, I think, to adapt technology, better methods to collect our food products. And finally, it is suggested by Dr. Sylvia that multi-dimensional approaches to maintain soil moisture and fertility should be done so that we'll be able to feed the future generation. Okay. Second, I just go to Evelyn. Dr. Evelyn, I would like to ask you, what innovative and climate-smart agricultural solutions are helping communities build adaptive, productive, and sustainable food systems?
Thank you very much. To start this dialogue, I think as I look at the room, not many of us were there in the 70s and in the 60s. Some of us are fortunate to have been there in the 70s. In the 70s, life was very predictable, especially learning and agriculture. We knew in January, we start a new year, and when we start a new year, the rains will come, the farmers will prepare their land, plant the crops. We will go to school, come April, schools close, we are part of the farm, we do the weeding, first weeding, second weeding, and if need be, apply some fertilizer, but the organic ones, the manures that we were making on the farms. We go back to school, come August, time to harvest, time to store the produce, and enjoy the holiday. December, we knew was all about feasting and waiting for another year to come. Our parents clearly knew it will rain every 15th of the month. We will have some rain. Little for 1 day, 2 or 3 days. They knew the long rains will come and they will plant. They knew the seasons when it will be dry. Our farmers, our parents, they knew issues of drought, issues of floods were like history. They would come once every 10 years. Life was very predictable. However, in the late 80s, early 90s, there came a change. And those who remember, we had something called El Nino. Too much rain took a very long time. Crops were destroyed. Those that were there was a total crop failure. Animals were washed away. A lot of them died. Come again, another period, we experienced a very long drought season unexpectedly because we knew these things come after every 10 years. Then we didn't know that was climate change. And when the phenomena came, it was very difficult to let people know there's something called climate change. And we had to get a way of getting this information to the people who do production. And we realized the only way of getting the people understand what this is, using the terms of the floods, using the terms of the drought, then they'll understand actually times have changed. We are no longer having our bumper harvests the way we used to do because the soils have either been degraded, the water is not enough, or is too much. It is on this note that in Kenya as a country, we have had to come up with interventions. Interventions that our farmers can come to put in place to ensure that irrespective of these changes, the farmers are able to have food on the table. The farmers are able to have enough for storage, and they also have enough that they can also take to the market as surplus. In Kenya, one of the game changers, as my colleague has talked about, is irrigation. We relied so much on the rain-fed agriculture, which is not giving us much. We are now putting a lot of mechanisms in place to ensure the different technologies in irrigation, as opposed to just the flood irrigation, are getting to the communities. In the ASALs, we are encouraging a lot of the drip irrigation, where they are using the nets to either get an area where you can get a water source and use it sufficiently to irrigate your produce. In the places that flood, we also have technologies on how they can raise the land and ensure when the water comes, it either sinks below the crops. Another game changer that we are getting to our farmers is teaching them the crops we used to grow. The maize that used to take 7 months to mature can no longer be sustained because the patterns keep changing and you cannot predict when the crop you've planted will be ready for harvest. Farmers are now adopting the drought-tolerant crops. The tolerant crops that take shorter period. We have maize varieties, which is our staple crop. Then now grow varieties that can take 3 to 4 months to maturity. They're getting into production of the sorghums, the millet, the pigeon peas, and the ndengu to help sustain our communities. Another game changer our government is taking up is the issue of insurance. Farmers are investing in our degraded soils, putting in a lot of inputs, the certified seeds, the fertilizers at very high costs. We are providing a safety net, whereas they purchase these items, they also register for insurance. Currently, because of awareness creation, the government is subsidizing the insurance package. They pay a certain amount and the government pays. And they are trained on what to look at to ensure that when something happens and they don't harvest, they have all that is required for them to be given back what they would have harvested from the farmers, from their farms. Basically, we have many other technologies. We have where they're planting trees that are friendly to the environment, together with the crops, and more so encouraging the fruit trees that are on top of providing cover. They're also providing fruits for the family. They're also being taught on how to take care of the soil before applying the fertilizers, to ensure that they take the soil for testing to get to understand what the soil actually needs to help them increase production. I think I want to stop at that to let us continue with the deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Evelyn. Dr. Evelyn has shared us, a lot of important things in relation to improving soil fertility, enhancing food productivity, etc. Of course, what she stressed is the fact that these days, 21st century, is quite different from the one we used to be in. In the 1970s, in the 1980s, in the 1990s, agricultural practices were uniform. Most of these phenomena like rainfall, soil productivity, soil fertility. They used to be very much predictable, but these days, especially because of climate change, we are observing changes that impact our lives negatively, or that complicate our lives, especially if they are not dealt with properly. So the government of Kenya has been doing a lot of work in this regard, mainly introducing proper technology in order to enhance productivity of farmers, and of course supporting the farmers so that in case they are in difficult situations to produce enough food, the government has intervened to support them so that they can stand on food. So the use of technology has been emphasized. The use of better approaches with regard to what we do with the soil, with the land, etc., has been emphasized by Dr. Evelyn. And of course, the use of technology, new approaches are emphasized by Dr. Evelyn. Thank you very much. My next panelist is, of course, Dr. Addis, and I would like to ask you this. How can improved land governance, tenure security, and sustainable land management contribute to greater food and nutrition security in the Ígad region? Dr. Addis.
Okay, thank you, moderator. Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Addis Tashome. I work for the Ígad Land Governance Unit. Just before I go into how the land governance issues are related to building climate resilience and ensuring food security in the region, I think it's important to note that the contribution of land in all our discourse when we deal about climate change. We have been listening to discussions and interventions, recommendations on how we can manage or we can mitigate and adapt to climate change and what are the priority investment areas that the different stakeholders should take in order to ensure that. But I think what we also need to recognize is all these investment options, recommendations, they are all based on land. Whatever decisions we are making, it is related to land. So that's why our heads of states and governments, they have endorsed the AU Declaration on Land Issues and Challenges back in 2009 to ensure that member states have the capacity to come up with comprehensive national land policies that guides the use management and utilization of the land as a main resource for their economy. So effective land governance that includes the rules, the practices, the processes, and also the legal frameworks in order to control, in order to use, in order to guide the available land resources in a specific member state. It's really important in guiding our intervention when it comes to sustainable development, food security, and building climate resilience. We say that whoever's control land, it controls power, and also he can control the political economy of land. So it has a broader implication rather than land. And most importantly, when it comes to African culture, land is not a mere resource, but land is a culture, land is identity, and land is all that we can rely on when it comes to our survival. So for us as an African society, land it has a bigger implication than a mere resource. So if we acknowledge that land has all these implications, how is effective land governance relates to building climate resilience and also ensuring food security in the region? We can mention two important pillars when it comes to those topics. The first one is effective land governance ensures tenure security. And security of tenures is not about having title deeds, but it is talking about the bundle of rights. It's about having the access, having the use, having the control, and all the benefits that comes with it. So why should having a secured title deed or a secured land tenure is so important for communities, for us, for individuals as a whole? The first thing is having a secure land tenure encourages people to invest more in a long-term land management and land production activities. The more you have a secure tenure, the more you are encouraged to invest in it in the long term. If you don't have a secure tenure, then you cannot make proper investments, long-term investments in your land. If you are not making long-term investments, proper investments in your land, that means with the changing climate, you are more vulnerable to more dangers, more climate impacts. But the more you have secure title, you have the opportunity to invest. The second one is the secure land tenure. It also encourages investment, not only from a farmer perspective, but in terms of encouraging economic development in a specific area. And having a secure tenure, it also reduces vulnerability. It also builds resilience, because you can use your title, you can use your secure tenure to have access to loans, to have access to financial services. So the first important relationship between having an efficient land governance system in building climate resilience is it ensures the presence of secure tenure for communities. But securing tenure is not an easy thing in the Íغad region, because we have a very different tenure systems in the region. We have a private tenure system, we have a public tenure system, we have a statutory tenure or the customary tenure, we have religious tenure. So having all these tenure systems, which is also influenced by our colonial history, it's not an easy target to achieve. As you all know, the Malabo Declaration or our CADAP has the tenure security as one of the indicators. But if you look into the detailed reports of member states on their progress on their biannual reports, we still lag behind a lot when it comes to ensuring tenure security for our citizens. The second relationship between effective land governance and climate resilience is effective land governance ensures proper land use and management practices. So all these investments, all these recommendations we are talking about, having irrigation schemes, having dams, having all these infrastructures that are used for building climate resilience should be well planned, should be also taking into consideration the future risk of the environment on our land. Because if you don't have that proper land use and management plans, then that means we are going back into circles, because whatever investments we do, rather than helping us build our resilience, it will also expose us to more danger to climates. For example, when you look at the construction of dams, and then the risk related to it, like the presence of floods, then we need to have that proper land use plans in our investment portfolios. Another important issue is the issue of restoration, the issue of building large-scale agricultural investments. All this should be related to the issue of securing tenure and at the same time the issue of proper land use. What we are currently experiencing in the Íغad region is the issue of rapid urbanization, particularly in the arid and semi-arid areas. And the problem with the urbanization, as much as we are promoting sedentarization of our pastoral communities as a way of fighting climate change, but if we don't manage this urbanization in a proper plan, with all the services for proper urban dwellers, then we are going to create another issue that affects, that impacts our communities in those areas. So as we talk about land governance and climate change, an effective land governance ensures tenure security that help communities to build resilience. It also helps us to have a proper land use and management plans. At the same time, it helps us in order to reducing conflict over land and its resources in the region, which is very common nowadays. I will stop that there. Thanks so much.
Well, Dr. Addis, thank you very much for your well-informed explanation regarding tenure security and sustainable management, its contribution for mitigating climate change, etc. Well, just to give you some highlights on what Dr. Addis has said, when we don't have effective tenure security systems, then people will not be able to come over and invest, for example. So farmers are able to use their lands properly when there is law, when there is a system that really tells them this land is theirs. So they will be encouraged to invest, their everything, their money, their social aspect, etc. Because land for Africans is their identity. It means everything for people, of course, especially in the Horn of Africa. So most of the time in the Horn of Africa, people fight, for land. They kill one another, and it has been, a big issue for quite too long. And it's not a new thing that we hear these kinds of incidents. And investors, for example, they want to come and invest, but they need to make sure that that land does not have any issue. When it is, of course, secured for them for quite too long, they will be able to invest. And of course, investing a lot in the long term will help us, of course, mitigate climate change, and it will allow us to be resilient for the changes that are ahead of us. Because these days, we can see that the panelists have also said that climate change is always, coming with more power to change, what's around us. So maybe this year, 2025, 2026, the impact of climate change will be worse, is worse than it was last year, and it is likely to be, worse in the next year, etc. So the world is expected to be ready with technology, with proper management schemes to deal with the change of climate change, its impact, especially in mitigating that, and then to make use of our resource, which is land. So management of the land is a very important thing, and for this, the government, the communities, the farmers, and everyone need to work together. I think this is what Dr. Addis has said. Dr. Shete, I'm just coming to you. Well, my question is, what role can fisheries and the broader blue economy play in complementing agriculture, improving nutrition, and creating resilient livelihoods? Well, it has to do with water bodies in general. Thank you.
Thank you, moderator. Good morning, colleagues. Now I'm going to take you from the land to the water. What happens on the land has also impact on the water bodies. Our region is blessed with abundant resource. 5 of our member states have coastal line. 3 of them are land linked, that they have huge resource, the inland water resource. All this resource has huge amount of blue food inside it. Only Somalia has more than 3,300 coastline. and imagine the productivity that this region has in terms of aquatic foods. When we say aquatic foods, when we say blue foods, it's not only fish. It is shellfish. It is also algae, very high protein content algae, like spirulina. And it's a very huge potential. Unfortunately, people think Íغاد is dry land, and they don't think about blue food. Even in the food system we design, it's about agricultural food system. Blue food system is almost forgotten. With this huge potential, we say 42 million people are food insecure, but there is an alternative livelihood, alternative food source from there. Okay, the region is more pastoralist, but it doesn't mean that you eat what you produce. For example, if we develop very well the fish from Somalia, Ethiopia with 130 million people, there is a huge market. The fish coming to this hotel is not from the region. It is imported outside. For example, salmon from Norway. The same holds true. So the sector, with, for example, during drought, when livestock will die, fish will not die. It is inside the water. It can be used to really escape the critical shortage that we face during drought. The ocean is there, the lakes are there, the waters are there, even if there is drought. The agriculture will fail, but the blue food will not fail. And the other advantage of this blue food is it is the highest nutrient density. It has high quality protein. It has omega-3 fatty acid. It will not only combat malnutrition, rather it also reduces the risk of non-communicable disease. If we really, during the time of drought, if we really incorporate the fish into some sort of wheat and others, it will enrich the nutritional quality. Stunting is a big challenge in our region. It's because of this issue. You know, when you are stunted, your thinking capacity is low, and it's a big loss for the country. Because you stop thinking when you are stunted. So we need to use this resource. So why this less attention is given? Íغاد identified, okay, now we should not only approach only fish. We follow blue economy approach. Blue economy means the different sectors, the fisheries, the maritime, ports, energy from the water bodies. For example, hydroelectric power is blue economy. You generate the economy generated from the water, to simplify it. So as Íغاد, we developed 5-year blue economy strategy, since it is a new approach to really create awareness on utilizing the blue food and other sectors. Because it is one water that you have the fish, it is one water that you are doing transport. It is so we need to approach it from multi-purpose aspect. With that, we are successful in a sense that our member states understand approaching multi-sectoral. For example, Somalia and Kenya established Ministry of Blue Economy. The other member states have Blue Economy Coordination Office. For example, for Ethiopia, it's Maritime authority who has the coordination role in terms of blue economy. What we need to do is to create, again, awareness. This huge blue food is there. It can help even the, in terms of carbon footprint, better, less carbon than on the land. Iqbal presented earlier. The livestock contribute a lot, but the aqua food, they have less carbon mitigation. So with all these things, we need to also understand climate is affecting the fish breeding ground, climate is affecting coral reef. So we need to also look at climate smart aquaculture, where we can do desert aquaculture, dryland aquaculture. Thank you. Back to you.
Dr. Shetty, thank you very much. Aquaculture or food from the water bodies has not been given the attention it really deserves. Most of the time we talk about agricultural products that we have from the land, and of course Ígad member states, maybe in most of African countries, we rely more on the producers that we have from the land. But in this case, a new insight is really emerging, which is, to look into the resources in the water bodies, which is a very important thing, especially the protein content from these water sources, fish, for example, different varieties of algae. All these provide us with what we need, especially in the fight of stunting, which is a very common phenomenon in many Ígad member states. So new approaches need to be, of course, on the floor, so that we'll be able to make the profit, or to make the benefit from these water resources, has been mentioned by, well explained by Dr. Shetty. And thank you very much for that. And then I just would like to present a very general question for each of the panelists. And again, I just would like to begin with Dr. Sylvia. It's all about, of course, gender, the discourse of gender here, in ensuring that we mitigate this kind of the impacts of climate change. And so women and men need to work together in order to be successful in this endeavor. So, Dr. Sylvia, my question is, how can women's leadership and participation across agricultural value chains, land governance, and the blue economy help drive inclusive and climate-resilient food systems in the Ígad region?
Thank you again. A very exciting topic. I would start by saying that when we are addressing gender, we need to be wholesome most of the times, to have both men and women, so that it is sustainable, yeah? The gender approaches and minimizing of conflicts, which is a major challenge also in our region, gender-based conflicts, which are sometimes accelerated by our own very good intentional interventions. To support or promote gender, we need to have women at the heart of technology development. Now, one of the realities when the climate changes, the people who get the highest impact are the women. One, the heat. If temperature increases by 1 degree, that as has been happening in the past few years, the impact on health, we have increased stillbirths. We have the same women that are supposed to use their time to take the water for producing crop. They have to use more time to look for where to fetch this water. So that means the time to take care of the family, the time to work, productive work that would build the economy is reduced. And that, yeah, okay. So, yeah, that becomes a major challenge. So, women should be brought at the center of technology development. For instance, if we are creating a new seed, it would be prudent that at the time of trials, variety trials, when we do selection, there's normally a point at which there is farmer selection and testing, on-farm testing, the use of women to be able to see, and this would help in taste and preferences, because we have a lot of good seed, good technology, and which are very good, but the taste, the color, you know, is not appealing, and therefore you find that uptake is very low. And the women understand the family, the children, and all that. So using them during technology development would really assist and help in really ensuring that they are part of climate change mitigation and adaptation. I think I would also, one more, because of time, just include women in policy development so that it's all-inclusive, bottom-up approach, so that by the time we are domesticating these policies, gender is included. Thank you.
Well, Dr. Evelyn, briefly tell us your response on the same question. Brief, please try to make it brief.
Thank you very much. Thank you. As my colleague has said, women carry the biggest burden. It is the women who do most of the agricultural labor work, and they need the education. They do not have the education. For women to get this education, the task is an uphill one. Number one, we have opinion leaders in our communities who believe women should not go for trainings. They should just stay at home and take care of the children and provide farm labor. Sensitizing our opinion leaders on why women need to be trained on climate-smart agriculture will really bring the women up in the list of what they want to do as pertains climate-smart agriculture, what is affordable to them, and what is also friendly for their use. We all know when we organize for these trainings on climate-smart agriculture, we call for residential trainings, which for women is not a very easy thing to do because they have children to take care of, and the livelihood in the home also depends on their presence in the home. We request that our trainings be done within their localities to enable their active participation. Women also, once they learn these technologies, they will need skills on entrepreneurship and negotiations with the financial institutions. We all know most of our financiers would like to have collateral, mainly the title deeds, which women do not have access to use to get loans. Negotiations with the financiers to allow other forms of collateral will be a good thing to help our women access loans to get involved in the climate-smart agriculture. I would have given more, but because of time, I will stop there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Radis, I come to you.
Okay. Thank you again, moderator. I think most of the issues have been said by my colleagues. But from my side, I think what we need to do to enhance the role of gender in climate resilience is the first one should be recognizing the gender differences when it comes to climate adaptation, and also when it comes to coping mechanisms for the different gender groups. As my colleagues mentioned, we did a gender power gap analysis in pastoral and agro-pastoral areas when it comes to climate resilience and climate adaptation. And we found out that women are more vulnerable to climate change, and their coping mechanisms is also different from men. So understanding, building the knowledge base on this, the gender differences in climate change should be one of the areas that we need to focus. The second one is about strengthening the leadership capacity of women in climate change adaptation initiatives. We basically, in most projects, we register the number of women that are involved in any initiative, meetings, trainings. But when we go deep into the issues, it's not about the presence, but it's about the participation and the representation of women. So a genuine representation, a genuine participation is really required in order to ensure climate adaptation initiatives are addressing women. And the third and final action point I can mention is the issue of ensuring access to productive resources to men and women. And by access to productive resources, we mean it's about land, it's about financial, it's about skills, and also it's about information. So if we can manage to act on those critical issues, I think we can reduce the gap that exists between men and women when it comes to climate change adaptation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Addis. Finally, Dr. Shetty.
We just conducted gender analysis in blue economy. We identified the gaps. For example, in the fisheries sector alone, 80% of the labor force is women. And 50% of the value chain is dominated by women. Despite that, access to finance, decision-making on resource management, they are not there in the blue economy sector. So all what was mentioned by my colleague predecessors, it's not unique for the blue economy sector. It implies the same.
Thank you, Dr. Shetty. Well, I would like to extend my gratitude to the panelists. Due to time constraint, I'm not able to offer you a chance from the audience to extend possible questions from you. And I apologize, I need to wrap it right here. And thank you, the panelists, all of you, for your wonderful explanations.
Bon appetit. Thank you.
the cradle of humanity, the frontier of the future, a land of visionaries, creators and pioneers, a continent of unstoppable energy where innovation meets tradition, where voices rise, loud and fearless.
I am an African.
This is the heartbeat of a billion people, diverse, bold, united by a single purpose to tell our own stories in our own way. No borders, no barriers, no filters. A new era of African storytelling is here. From every corner of the continent, from the bustling cities to the quiet villages, we tell Africa's story by Africans for the world. This is the land of a rising Africa, where Africa speaks and the world listens. This is why today we bring you POA, Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa.
Africa.